Hello and welcome to Granada Reports.
Here's what's on the programme tonight.
A crime that defies belief. What a judge said to the carer who stole from 90-year-old Myra, then murdered her to silence her as a witness.
Doctors' discontent. Why so many medics on the Isle of Man say the island's health service is a poor place to work.
Most of the doctors feel that they have things done to them rather than being part of the decision making.
On the eve of the grand final, I'll be live at Old Trafford with Disputed, the Super League trophy, as Wigan Warriors look to make a little bit of history when they take on Hull KR.
Crowd control for Major Tim. Space fans in Lancashire enjoy a close encounter with the UK's most famous astronaut, Tim Peake.
And a big thank you to everyone who sent their fantastic Northern Lights pictures in from last night. It was a perfect night for viewing. Will we be as lucky tonight? I'll have the details in the weather forecast later on.
Yeah, that's all coming up later. But first, the carer who first stole from a 90-year-old woman, but then, when she realised she'd been found out, killed her while she lay in bed.
Myra Thompson was a happy, independent and popular member of the community in the Spittal area of Wirral. According to a friend and neighbour, all she wanted was to live out her days in the comfort of her own home.
But after she reported that one of her carers was stealing from her, a secret camera was rigged up in her bedroom. On it, carer Jane Hill was seen stealing from her.
Our correspondent Rob Smith was at Liverpool Crown Court to see Hill jailed for life.
It isn't often judges describe cases before them as defying belief, but that's precisely what happened here today. The case of a carer murdering a defenceless 90-year-old woman to remove her from being a witness to that carer's theft. Myra Thompson from Spittal, seen here in her younger years, had carers going back and forth to her home to make sure she ate and drank enough, but she thought she was being stolen from. So with the help of a neighbour, a hidden camera was installed, and that camera caught Jane Hill, who's 52, and from Upton, it caught her taking money out of Mrs. Thompson's handbag. Now, the care agency that employed Hill suspended her. This was back in April, and just days later, Hill drove to Mrs. Thompson's house at night, waited for all the lights to go out, waited for her to be sure that she was in bed, and then let herself in with a key from the key safe. The pensioner realised there was an intruder and started shouting. Hill went into the bedroom and grabbed a metal flask from the bedside and hit her over the head with it. When that did not stop Mrs. Thompson shouting and struggling, she grabbed a pillow and smothered her. The judge said today that it was, as he could see it, a cold-blooded crime. The ferocity of it, the weapons involved, showed just how the 90-year-old's suffering had been profound. Her niece today said that she just cannot imagine the terror that her aunt went through in her final moments in the place where she should have been safest of all. Mrs. Thompson's neighbour said that she's lost trust in humanity, as she puts it, because of what happened to her kind, loyal and trusting friend. Hill spent most of today's hearing looking at the floor, and she showed no emotion at all as she was handed a life sentence with a minimum term of 22 years. Those 22 years, the minimum she'll serve before she's eligible for parole. The judge saying today she may never be eligible for it.
Rob Smith reporting there from Liverpool Crown Court. Next, most doctors on the Isle of Man, it seems, feel undervalued and overstretched.
So much so that a survey by the British Medical Association found that only a small percentage of those who took part would recommend the island's main healthcare provider, Manx Care, as a good place to work.
Well, Manx Care say they're working with doctors to resolve their differences. Our Isle of Man reporter Joshua Stokes has been talking to both sides.
Since its launch in 2021, Manx Care has been the leading health provider in the Isle of Man, an essential service to islanders, but one facing heavy criticism. Not from the public, though, but from its staff. A survey conducted by the British Medical Association found only 15% of its doctors would recommend Manx Care as a good place to work. Just 9% felt listened to, and 81% disagreed that Manx Care has a positive culture. A cause of great concern amongst colleagues.
most of the doctors feel that they have things done to them rather than being part of the decision making, and they don't feel that they're valued enough, and undervalued, and they feel overstretched without sufficient resources to support them.
And much of that frustration stems from the island's main hospital.
While the survey may paint a bleak picture of the culture at Manx Care, bosses in Noble's Hospital say they may not agree with what doctors are saying, but they're willing to listen.
I do want to get into the detail and have the discussion with colleagues as to actually who do they feel are not listening. So that's the bit that we really need to get underneath. Where is that disconnect happening and how do we resolve it?
How damaging is this for Manx Care?
We've got to get this into perspective. I meet clinicians every day, you know, formally and informally and on the corridors. Many of them are very proud to work at Manx Care.
Bosses say an all-staff survey is currently being circulated to get a broader view, while doctors decide their next move. Clearly unhappy with the service, with no current solution in sight. Joshua Stokes, ITV News in the Isle of Man.
The Liverpool football legend Robbie Fowler has joined local celebrities in urging people to do what they can to save a beloved baby hospice in the city. The former striker is an ambassador for Zoe's Place, which has announced it will close just before Christmas after plans to build a replacement site ran into delays. Now, a new campaign is looking to raise £5 million in just 30 days to save it.
Now it's just about collecting all our support, galvanising it, putting it into money, donations, pledges, and then we can get building that across the way. That's the key thing.
A man's been jailed after a 3-year-old girl suffered serious facial injuries in a dog attack at Kirby on Merseyside. Harris Vinton, who's from Ormskirk, will serve 16 months after his pit bull attacked the little girl outside a pub in the town just over a year ago. The dog was later humanely destroyed. Vinton has also been banned from owning dogs for 4 years.
The partial remains of a northwest mountaineer are believed to have been found on Mount Everest 100 years after he went missing. Andrew Sandy Irvin from Birkenhead vanished along with fellow explorer George Mallory while trying to scale the mountain as part of the 1924 Mount Everest expedition. Now, a sock embroidered with A.C. Irvin and a boot have been discovered on the central Rongbuk Glacier below the north face of Mount Everest. And sadly, we'll never know whether Irvin and Mallory got to the summit.
I know, it's kind of macabre, isn't it, that find? Next to the thriving community social club that's fighting to stay open.
Yes, the Carlton Club has been an institution in the Whalley Range area of South Manchester for more than 100 years. But now they say they're being forced to leave after relations soured between the club and their landlord, the Carlton Social and Bowling Club Building Company.
This led to the landlord serving a notice of intention to occupy the building as a business, which would leave the charity without a home. Our reporter Tasha Kachiri has more.
This place is special. While music is at its core, the community is its backbone. The Carlton Club has been a South Manchester institution for more than 100 years. Now its doors may have to close.
The owners of the club, who we refer to as the building company, have issued us with an eviction notice. We are meant to work symbiotically with the building company. They actually exist just to enable us to operate. We are very determined that we will not be evicted.
The private members' social and bowling club is a place for everyone. They host music nights, weddings, wakes and a load of other events, including this dance class.
Why do you think it's so important for this place to be here?
Community. People in the community, yeah. It's where everybody comes, so you really need it.
It's essential because it gets people moving and we meet other people. Lots of people have got new friends they can go for a walk with.
I really haven't known this place for very long. I've come to a wedding reception, to a pub quiz, But when I started coming regularly, and you hear what other people are doing, and you see the programme they offer, it's a big resource for the whole area, because there's not very much like it around here. So it would be a real disaster if it were to close.
The closing of venues like this one is nothing new, but for the people who live here, it's taking away a vital part of their community.
Well, in the UK, in 2023, 125 grassroots music venues either closed or stopped putting on music altogether last year. So there is a problem with it. There is a problem with losing these spaces. What tends to happen is if these spaces close, they don't reopen. We lose a community's ability to access affordable original live music and other cultural offerings.
The club are determined not to leave their home and have launched their Save Our Club campaign. All proceeds will go towards legal fees and reinvestment.
It's the people that make the space and not the bricks and mortar. And I think like when that space gets taken away from those people that have put so much into it, it's a travesty and it's a shame.
It's clear that this community isn't ready to give up on their club anytime soon. Tasha Kachiri, ITV News, Whalley Range in Manchester.
Well, we reached out to the building company's solicitors, who said the dispute is over a commercial lease, and they say they are not trying to evict the charity. They went on to say they provided a draft lease with reasonable commercial terms.
But the charity, they say, has failed to properly engage with them, which left the landlord with little alternative but to serve notice of their intention to occupy the building as a business. Well, hopefully it's a dispute which can be resolved. Now, let's see what's making the national and international headlines on ITV Evening News at 6:30 with Charlene.
Coming up on the ITV Evening News, failings laid bare as the inquest concludes into how a teenager died of sepsis at Kettering General Hospital. The dramatic rescue of a man left clinging to an icebox off the coast of Florida after Hurricane Milton. And how Netflix's Emily in Paris now appears to be at the centre of a diplomatic row. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Now, fresh from her gold medal success at both the Paralympics and the World Championships, Dame Sarah Storey is cleaning up again.
With Manchester ranked as one of the worst areas of the UK for air pollution, the champion cyclist is backing a plan to remove cars from the streets around schools.
They've been trialling the scheme at Seymour Park Primary School in Stretford, and Tim Scott was there.
What's normally a very busy road outside Seymour Park Primary in Trafford, now free of traffic and pollution and a safe space for the children. This is a school street, closed at both ends during the school run and manned by volunteers.
When we very first started the scheme, one of the young people walked out of school and said, "I can't taste the cars." Wow. Which is really powerful, isn't it? For a young person to say that they can't taste the traffic outside. And that just underscores to me how important it is that we try and do something about the problem of air pollution outside schools.
Have you had any pushback from local residents or commuters about closing the roads around here?
I mean, generally people have been really supportive and they understand why. I mean, they see how difficult the traffic is on the days that we don't do school streets.
For the parents and children, the scheme, currently 3 days a week, is a success.
School streets is about creating less pollution in the air, so then children can breathe and have a better start to the day.
It's a great idea. I suppose the best thing is it reduces all the traffic and all the chaos, and as you can see, kind of lends to more of a community atmosphere.
So it's better for the children, so they can have more independence, and it's just really happy for everyone to be able to feel safe on the roads.
Mayor Andy Burnham and Paralympian legend Dame Sarah Storey, in her role as Greater Manchester Active Travel Commissioner, both turned up to see how the school street scheme was working.
School Streets enables us to get children to school in a healthier, happier and much more safe way than it can be. And when you see school drop off, we talk about the school run, talk about chaos. The school street is the calm alternative.
This is a kind of modest restriction to support children's safety, to improve their levels of exercise and make the whole school environment safer and happier. It's got to be a good thing.
It's hoped more schools across Greater Manchester will see the school street scheme rolled out soon. Tim Scott, ITV News, Trafford.
Oh, a shout out to all the very clever children at Seymour Park Primary School and their very well behaved mums and dads who are parking elsewhere. It's time for sport now, and tomorrow sees the climax of the Rugby League season as Super League champions Wigan defend their crown against Hull KR in the Super League Grand Final.
Yeah, really looking forward to this one. David Chisnall can join us live from Old Trafford. David, a bit of Rugby League history up for grabs tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to Old Trafford, where this time tomorrow 65,000 fans will have this place absolutely bouncing. You know, whoever wins this trophy, we are guaranteed to see something that we have never seen before. Hull KR are playing in their very first grand final. They take on a Wigan side, well, who've won the lot so far this year, the World Club Challenge, the Challenge Cup and also the League Leaders Shield. No side has won all 4 trophies in the same season. Wigan are on the brink of some very special history.
Put your hands under your hips.
And then there were 2.
Tight to the plinth just a little bit more, that's great.
Wigan Warriors and Hull KR were the last men standing in this season's battle to become Super League champions. For the reigning holders Wigan, to win back-to-back grand finals would be a first for the club since the start of the Super League in 1996.
Well, Bevan, here we go again. You did it last year. What would it mean to do it again this year?
Yeah, I mean, the world, you strive out for these things, grand finals, trophies, all that stuff. You know, the second one will probably be a lot better than the first. I know winning your first one is a great feeling, but it's definitely much tougher to be able to go back to back.
Victory at Old Trafford would also see Wigan achieve the quadruple in the same year, with the Challenge Cup, World Club Challenge and League Leaders Shield already won since February.
Something you can't dream of, really. It'd be quite incredible, you know. Not many. No, well, we're the first team to do it in the Super League era, if we're lucky enough to get the job done. And wasn't a goal at the start of the year, but obviously now that it's come to the back end of the year, it's will be nice.
While the grand final conjures up happy memories for most in Wigan's ranks, it brings back painful ones for Cruz Leeming, whose only previous appearance at Old Trafford came in defeat with Leeds at the hands of St Helens 2 years ago.
How much does that drive you on then, not to have that again?
It's everything. It's everything. It's why I got out of bed in February, you know, in the pre-season, them first couple of games, and it's why I'm continuing to get out of bed at early mornings now and drive to Wigan and put absolutely everything I've got into every training session, because it is that fear of failure, and it's not just a failure of losing on Saturday, it's the fear of letting my teammates down. If you don't fulfil your potential, it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror, and I feel like we've got the team to get the job done, and if we don't get it done, it'll hurt us.
Wigan and Hull KR finished first and second in the Super League table, and for Warriors head coach, it's fitting they're now meeting in the grand final.
People like to see the top 2 teams go at it in the final, and rightly so. A lot of our toughest games over the last 2 or 3 years have been against Hull KR. You know, they've got the better of us a few times. So yeah, I think it's certainly set up to be a great contest.
Tomorrow sees a heavyweight clash of the Titans as Wigan look to continue their dominance of Club Rugby League and KO KR. Yeah, who will land that all-important knockout blow on their opponents tomorrow? It's going to be quite the occasion here at Old Trafford. It's also going to be quite the occasion down the M62 as well over at Anfield, where this weekend it will play host to a Women's Super League match between Liverpool and Manchester City. Well, City currently top the table. They go into this one off the back of a brilliant win against Barcelona in the Champions League in midweek. But Liverpool's players, well, they are inspired by the thought of scoring at Anfield.
Honestly, I have been. I think I've been dreaming of that ever since I signed here, just looking forward to those games at Anfield. And, you know, I've been picturing myself different kinds of goals, I can tell you. But, yeah, definitely see myself scoring at Anfield at some point.
Really good for us that it's played at Anfield. I think that's fantastic in that sense. Really good experience for the girls, and more now these players, not just our players, but every player in the WSL is experiencing playing on the big stadiums, playing in front of packed audiences like we had the other night.
Well, some sad news coming out of Anfield today is the death of their former player Peter Cormack, who's died at the age of 78. He played in Liverpool's team in the mid-1970s, winning 2 league titles, the FA Cup and the UEFA Cup under Bill Shankly. The Scotland international also had a spell as manager of Botswana.
Getting that winning feeling. FOW, sponsors of the Granada Sport Report.
So who will lift this trophy tomorrow? At the moment, it still belongs to Wigan, and they will do everything they can to keep their hands on it as well, including rehearsing that grand final experience in training. Yesterday, the Brick Community Stadium, they filled the stadium with smoke to replicate that all-important and that very difficult pre-match firework environment that tomorrow's grand final will bring. They also rehearsed the long walk from the tunnel, pumped up the PA system as well to full blast to give their players the best possible preparation for what is in store. Let's hope that it works. Well, along with this trophy, a new award will be handed out tomorrow. For the first time, the Rob Burrow Award will be presented to the man of the match in the grand final. It replaces the Harry Sunderland Trophy. Of course, is named after the legendary Leeds Rhinos and former Great Britain player who had motor neuron disease, died in June this year. Rather fittingly, Rob's dad, Jeff, is going to be presenting the award as well. Well, who will win that? And who will win this? The ultimate prize, the biggest night in Super League, is almost upon us. The grand final is now less than 24 hours away.
Yes, thank you, David. Grand final night. It's one of my favourite nights of the year. When they come out of the tunnel and there's the fireworks and the music, it's just like nothing else. It's going to be great.
I think they should have rehearsed David Chisnell coming into the stadium tonight
with
a bit of smoke. Anyway, next to One Town's close encounter with a real-life spaceman.
Yes, the crowds were orbiting around the block at Kirkham in Lancashire to get a glimpse of astronaut Tim Peake as he floated by for the only signing of his latest children's book, The Cosmic Diary of a Future Space Explorer.
And there's one question in particular he gets asked a lot, as our entertainment correspondent Caroline Whitmore found out.
World Space Week!
To celebrate World Space Week, I'm only here in Kirkham with none other than Tim Peake. Goodness me, Tim, you are the most famous British astronaut of all time. You're here in Kirkham, you've got a queue of people outside.
Yes.
It's a cosmic diary of a future space explorer, and it's specifically for children, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We kind of wrote it for 7 to 12. I had a huge amount of fun writing it. Steve Cole helped me as well.
You're the only British astronaut to go to the International Space Station. What is it like there?
So the space station, firstly, it's a big place, size of a football pitch on the outside, on the inside about the size of a 747 jumbo jet. So it's not cramped for 6 or 7 people up there. The best part of the space station is this big cupola window, and any time you just get a couple of minutes of break, you want to grab a camera, go to the window and take photos.
Something like this is huge to us, and that's exactly what I was saying to Tim. And I just said, what you have done for us as an indie bookshop on the high street, and what you've done for Kirkham, the Borough, Lancashire, is just incredible.
When you're in the International Space Station, do you get a bed? do you sleep in your gear?
Yeah, little ensuite rooms, very nice. We have our own crew quarter, which is very small. It's about the size of an old telephone box.
That's tiny.
Well, in weightlessness, it's not too bad. We share a loo, we share the gym.
Is it like when you get off ice skating and your feet feel weird afterwards? Is
Yes.
it like that?
Yeah, it is. What's weird is we don't actually wear any shoes for 6 months. The soles of our feet, they become like babies' feet after 6 months. So we keep exercising for about 2 hours every day to kind of keep up our muscle mass and our bone density. Our eyesight changes, our skin, our immune system, our cardiovascular system changes.
That's incredible. So things change as much as that?
Yes, absolutely. Without gravity, your heart shrinks, your arteries stiffen. It's a bit like the aging process. We kind of age 20 years in 5 weeks in space, but thankfully...
This is not a perk of the job, Tim.
No, I know, I'm 27, but you wouldn't know.
I ask questions for a living, and believe me, I've got about 100 in my head. What is the one question that people in the queue are going to always be asking you?
So I guarantee that I'm going to get several times, how do you go to the loo in space?
I nearly asked it.
Very important.
What is the one question you're going to ask him?
Why did you go to space? What did you miss at home? What is it like in space? How fast does a rocket have to go to escape gravity? How do astronauts go to the toilet in space?
Going to the loo, it's exactly the same as we do it on Earth, but there's one really important step, and that's to switch the fan on before you do. It's airflow that just keeps everything going in the right direction.
This is good stuff, this, Tim. Will you ever go to the moon?
So I've got my hand high in the air to go to the moon. Probably by the time the first European flies to the moon, I've probably retired by then.
Oh, no. I'll put my hand in the air, ready for you. Get Tim there. Lovely to see you here in Kirkham, Tim.
Thanks very much. Great talking to you.
Nothing but space, man.
Great stuff.
Brilliant. But the big question is, will we see the Northern Lights again tonight? Here's Joe.
Have you burnt tea again?
I'm scraping the cooled oil into the bin, not the sink.
Can we eat outside? It's nice.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the weekend. It was a clear night last night and many of us saw the Northern Lights. Fantastic viewing here in the northwest. Unfortunately tonight there will be more cloud around in general, but you may just get a glimpse if you're lucky. It is going to be quite showery through the day tomorrow. Sunday will be dry for most of us, with a bit of brightness here and there. Low pressure is to the northwest of the UK and it's slowly edging southwards and eastwards through the day tomorrow, increasing cloud, bringing some brisk winds and spells of showery rain. Behind it though, a little ridge of high pressure just building in for Sunday, giving us a dry but cold end to the weekend. Back to you tonight. 1 or 2 showers cropping up for Irish Sea coast, the Isle of Man, perhaps Cumbria. There'll be 1 or 2 breaks, but it's a rather cloudy night to come, and as a consequence, not as chilly as last night when it was well below freezing. 3 or 4 degrees is a minimum tonight. Winds quite light before tomorrow morning. On to tomorrow. The sun will be up at 7:34. It will set at 6:19. And for many of us, tomorrow will turn increasingly unsettled, but it could be dry initially, if a little cloudy. Through the course of the day, from the northwest, we'll begin to see that frontal system moving in, bringing a spell of rain, pushing its way southwards and eastwards through tomorrow afternoon. Some of it heavy. It's accompanied by brisk winds, so not the best end to the day. 13 Celsius our top temperature. The showers will die away by the time the sun sets. Skies will clear and tomorrow night will be very cold, well below freezing as we wake up on Sunday morning. A bright start, but cloud builds through Sunday. It's going to be one of those chilly autumnal days. Monday and Tuesday, temperatures are on the up, but it's going to turn increasingly unsettled next week. Bye-bye.
It's a little bit burnt.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thanks, Joe. That's it from us. Plenty more on our website, of course, itv.com/Granada.
I'm back with the late news from 10:30 tonight, but for now, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.